my name is Max, and I'm here today to talk about feedback fertility. Bear with me if you don't know what feedback fertility is. I'll give you a pretty straightforward definition here soon, but first, I want to go back to what's agronomy's data bottleneck. So, I want to take you back to kind of my origin story and the origin story of the company. So, Paqueta System was born in the hills of New Brunswick, where there's a lot of potato growers. And from there, a lot of potato growers do a lot of tissue testing. And we realized that there's no shortage of data in ag. There's a ton of companies, tons of labs providing a ton of data, but the data to insight gap is still pretty big. So I talk here about tissue tests arriving late. So you can imagine bagging a tissue test, sending it to a lab, and waiting a couple of days to get the results back. When you're trying to spray, this is not very efficient. Soil data is static. You do them once a year. Some people do them once every 3 years. So it doesn't really give you the full picture. And the imagery data, whether from drone or satellite, is still, unproven. Not a lot of people use it. So growers make critical decisions with very little real-time feedback from the crop itself. And this is what we're trying to solve here. So all the crop advisors are asked to do more with fewer field interaction at the end of the day because of labor shortages. So here's the definition of feedback fertility. So it's a framework for in-season nutrient management that treats the crop as an active participant in the fertility program. So this is what it looks in a picture. So you can see, you observe the crop, analyze the data, respond, validate, and repeat this process over and over again. So it's about knowing when, where, and how that insights can be turned into an action for the growers. In other way, sense, prescribe, and apply. So I want to show you this ag practice innovation pipeline that we think is relatively accurate. So I talk about regular tissue testing on that scale. And research, specialty crop, high yield and breeding programs are all doing tissue testing on a regular basis. But it kind of stops there. There's very few ag retail and crop consultants that do it at scale. Let alone broadacre farmers. So what's the shift? Well, the shift is from an input seller, or just regular chemistry provider, to an information provider. So agronomic success means now delivering confidence, not just chemistry. So growers need more answers, and they need them faster than ever before. And advisors need the tools to get a high touch and insight first support. So that fertility feedback makes it possible by giving the advisors the tools they need to get real-time plant nutrient data. This, again, before an in-season plan was put in place that would rely on lab results, asynchronous data, and mostly gut feel. Now, you can do an iterative process with recommendation, real-time crop feedback, and confident timing that you're applying your nutrient at the right time. So why context is everything? Well, a traditional tissue test will give you numbers and sometimes colors, red, yellow, green, blue, which is all fun, but really it's very hard to understand what's going on in the crop with just numbers. You lack comparison, you lack field history, and you don't really have kind of all the growth stage insights. So you might know where you are today, but it doesn't really put in context where you were yesterday or where you need to be tomorrow. So those numbers really just lead you to guesswork. Feedback fertility adds context that's needed to make meaningful interpretation. And I'm going to show you some example here. So this example on the screen here is a regular tissue test. This is what you would expect from a lab. Colors and numbers. Does it really tell you the whole story? In my opinion, it doesn't. You're lacking data from the past, where you need to be, the comparison, the growth stage. It's really hard to act on this. You might just say, you know what, I'm short on magnesium and manganese. Maybe I want to do something about it. But here's a clearer picture with a lot more context. And I think it might reveal some more insights on what's going on in the field. So you can see here you have a trend line available to compare where you were to where you need to be. You got a map that can compare different sampling points in the field, so you might have an area that is performing better than another. And if you want to take this to the next level, you can compare it with all your other fields. So you can find scenarios where all your fields are going right and you have one field that is going in the complete other direction. This is what feedback fertility is trying to do. So I just want to share some of my users here that are using the lens from Piketa. See what they say. So one of them is saying there's not too many people who can make a trend line out of 36 PDF in their heads. And what this means is it's really hard to compare a lot of tissue tests if you don't have the tools to interpret the results. And then another one is fertility feedback in practice, where I can get a scan back and I can see something like a boron starting to dip. I can make that recommendation quickly, which is a analogy to sending it to a lab, having to wait a couple days, and then potentially missing that window for that boron application. So my call to action here today is to start building your feedback loop. So how long does it take to confidently identify and diagnose a nutrient problem today? That's a question for you. How often do your growers make changes based on data versus their gut feeling or what they've done in the past? And then the final question that I will leave you with is, what would timely insights unlock for your team and your business? So our tagline is know your crop, grow your potential. And fertility feedback is a guessing game. Or fertility without feedback is a guessing game. Contextual, real-time insight makes agronomists indispensable, and feedback fertility is how you close the gap between what we know and what we do. So thank you for your time.